And welcome to the Dynasty Playbook, Dynasty FF's dedicated podcast. I'm your host, Drew. You can find me on Reddit at EAF Marine, on Twitter at DrewDotsonNFL. With me is my co-host, Tyler. You can find him on Reddit at Barrels and on Twitter at HBomb9508. Scott's not with us this week, but we're gonna keep on trucking without him. We got a little bit of finishing up to do with our draft coverage, and then 2 weeks worth of submitted questions to catch up on. So we got a good bit of content to cover. How you doing this week, bud?
I'm doing great, man. I'm on vacation. I've got 2 IDP startups going. Already knocked out 1 rookie draft. I'm in the midst of 2 or 3 others. I'm in heaven, man. I'm in dynasty heaven right now.
Heaven, that's right. Because vacation's where you go, but you don't ever come back. So you must be dead.
It's a staycation, man, to the nth degree. It's awesome.
It's going to suck so bad when it ends and you got to go back to work.
It'll be all over Friday like that. It'll be Friday morning, and I'll be back laying under a truck getting all dirty and greasy again. But for now, I'm going to live in the moment and enjoy myself.
Live in the now. Yeah, I got a couple drafts going on myself. I got a bunch of mine starting this week, though. I got a couple kicking off Wednesday. I got one kicking off tomorrow, which I'm going to be driving all the way up to Jackson, Mississippi, and all the way back for a chiropractor appointment. So I'm going to be on the road trying to not text and drive and having to pull over on the side of the road because that's the kind of problems I have. And you're not in that league with me, so I can't box you and make you submit the picks for me.
Sure you can. Just give me your password. I'll make sure you're taken care of.
There you go. Works for me. But now that our weekly little chit-chat's knocked out, why don't we go into our week in review? And we'll start off with the unfortunate news of Justin Blackmon applied for reinstatement of the NFL and was denied. Not happening. So, no value left, right? Just droppable.
Yeah, he's not even worth the roster spot. And I was kind of with Blackmon, even more so than Gordon, just because I don't think he's as good. He's not as good as Gordon. He's barely worth the roster spot before all this stuff, came out. And even if he was reinstated, was he going to go back to Jacksonville? Who's going to roll the dice on him? Who wants to put up with the Justin Blackmon crap? I can get why you've had him stashed all this time, but if he's on your roster today, just drop him, man. Those roster spots are too valuable. Just too valuable for a guy that's probably never going to play another snap.
Yeah, completely agree. I was all aboard holding him because when he plays, he's got potential to be, a fantasy wide receiver 1. But with this, if he's not even getting back in the NFL, there's no point. You got rookie picks coming up. You're gonna need to free those up, and there's no reason to hold Justin Blackmon if he's not even going to be playing. So, there's not really a whole lot else to say than that. He's a bum. But speaking of guys who aren't bums but got effed over, Dante Fowler, our golden boy with the golden shoes, went down with an ACL tear in his first practice in his first rookie camp of the NFL. Fuck. I was so pissed. I really was. It killed me inside. I don't care. He's still my rookie defensive end 1. He's going to drop his value. He's got the potential to lose explosiveness, whatever. I don't care. I really don't. Worst case scenario, he gets moved to linebacker, but I'm willing to bet on it if he still stays defensive end. If he's a defensive end, he's a top 10 defensive end for me today.
Yeah. That was a gut punch, man. And Drew was the one that actually I didn't know about it. I was at work and Drew sent me a text, hey, Fowler just went down in practice. I was like, that's probably not good. And then the news started trickling in. And then you see the video of what happened. And then he's got a torn ACL. And it's just it just takes the wind right out of your sails. All right, so let's look at the silver lining here. his price was going to be pretty freaking high. That price is going to be astronomically lower today than it was as soon as he went off the board as the number 3 overall pick in the draft. So Fowler, and if you see my ranks over UTH, I put him out, and I think I had Fowler at like defensive end 9, and I'm still pretty comfortable with that. But then I immediately went back and edited, and and I dropped him, because those ranks are based upon what are you going to do in a startup draft, and you're not going to want to draft him as defensive 9 in a startup draft. That's just a little bit too much risk. And so I go to drop him. I'm like, how far can I really drop him? And he's still in there. I want to say in around the 15 to 18 range for me, which is still ranked pretty highly. So the buy window is wide open. The benefit to having him, you could either put him on your taxi or your IR. You could put him on your IR from day one, most likely. So you're not chewing up a roster spot. You've got a young, explosive defensive end at what is probably fantasy's most difficult position to fill. Defensive end is tough to fill. So, yeah, it's a bummer. We're going to have our gratification postponed somewhat here, but I'm still buying Dante Fowler. And a year or two from now, you get to reap the benefits because you've already bought him.
Absolutely. And another guy who I'm less sold on than you are, didn't get the defensive end designation like you were just so excited for him to get, and that's Vic Beasley. I like Vic Beasley as a player, but I didn't think he had the weight. I didn't think he had the body structure to play as a 4-3 end. I thought he was slated to be an outside linebacker no matter what scheme he went to, and that's kind of exactly what happened. As a linebacker, the drop in value is pretty significant to the point where I'm looking at him as, a late 4th, 5th rookie pick, as opposed to if he was an end, I'd be looking at him as a 2nd round rookie pick. So I don't know if you still have him higher based on what you think his potential upside is, but it's pretty low for me.
I mean, I have him somewhat high. And when I look at things, I value a high tackle floor in IDP. That's a big thing for me, is consistency. And I have Vic Beasley ranked right around Von Miller because that's about the type of player that you're going to get here. You're going to get a pass rushing Sam in a 4-3 who may drop to an end on 3rd down, something like that. But Vic Beasley goes from a top 15 or 20 defensive end to a linebacker that I'm going to have ranked in like the 35 to 40 range. So the drop is massive. The upside in having him is that eventually he can gain defensive end classification. If he does, obviously the value goes and spikes right through the roof. But I had Randy Gregory higher than Vic Beasley, even if both were defensive ends anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I had Gregory as my number 2 edge guy in the class, and the fact that he landed in a 4-3 is great. And, most people would have Beasley ahead of Gregory, but I personally didn't. But as it sits right now, Gregory is my number 1 IDP to target in rookie drafts based on positional scarcity and the fact that Dante Fowler just wrecked his knee.
Yeah. If you're based in terms of pure pass rushing skill, I think Beasley beats out Gregory. But I think in terms of their value, if they both were defensive ends, I think Gregory is by far the more valuable grab. I think comparing him to close to Von Miller's value is insanity. I kind of want to look into getting you committed. I know there's lots of good places in Texas for people like you. I think they refer to him as the criminally insane because that's not okay. I like Beasley and all. Now go ahead. Defend
No, keep going. I like it. Well, I say it's not. I don't even have Von Miller ranked very high. I think I have Von Miller at the very back end of the LB3s. Like I said,
that's where you messed up.
But see, you're a ceiling guy. I'm a floor guy. I like that floor. I will take.
Well, you're going to be laying on a padded floor.
in the insane asylum.
That's right.
Okay. I mean, Von Miller's the third most desirable IDP linebacker on his own team. I'd take Trevathan and Marshall before I'd take Von Miller. Can we agree on that?
No way. No. I like Marshall, but I'm not that ready to buy into him. I'm still on the Miller train.
You love that ceiling. Love that upside.
It's close for me though. I will give you that. It's close. But I would still take Miller over Marshall.
That's fair. And Marshall's situation's super, super screwy right now with the Liz Frank and with Trevathan coming back and the scheme switch. It's really weird. You know, it's not a great situation, but
that's where a lot of it comes for me is Trevathan coming back, and I'm not sure how much that's going to affect Marshall despite what he did.
He was a beast last year. I mean, he was no joke, and it wasn't just like I'll throw this out to Breeze. It wasn't a Paul Warlow situation where he was just racking up numbers because he was there. Brandon Marshall's a good linebacker. Right. Brandon Marshall's a good linebacker.
Oh yeah.
But the situation is really it's cloudy. He's getting drafted way, way too high right now. I've seen him go in like top 12 linebackers. And a lot of that's just based on last year's production and all the mocks that have run so far this year. But that's entirely too high for Brandon Marshall. But now that we've gone sufficiently off topic, I'm going to kick it back to you to reel us in here.
I mean, we went so far off topic, but I don't even remember what the original topic was. So I guess we'll just move on to our next topic. And that's our player discussions. We're going to cap off the guys we wanted to hit on for the draft. And we're going to touch on a guy who was originally a pretty sufficiently high-ranked second-round pick for us, and that's Stephon Diggs, who, I feel like man crush isn't a strong enough word for what Tyler and I have. Tyler and I have been talking this guy up together in chat in secret in our league since, October? Before then? I don't know.
Longer. This time last year.
Yeah.
Look, I want to get me some 15 first so I can get my hands on some Stephon Diggs.
That's right. It's been a minute. I forgot. But I'm all about his talent, and I think Minnesota is a very sneaky landing spot for him. I think you're going to end up having to wait. I think 15 is not going to be a great production season for him, but I'm all right with waiting. I think 16 will be a nice chance for him to kind of explode, because we're going to have a good idea of what we've got with Cordarrelle Patterson, which, based on all my dying shares, it's nothing. Mike Wallace will be 1 foot closer to just falling in his grave. And I think they'll get a good time to get a good ability to settle in with Teddy Bridgewater. I think Charles Johnson and Stephon Diggs will set up a good pair, and I think they're both going to be able to provide fantasy value for your team.
Yeah, I love the landing spot. And the things that Diggs does well kind of separates him from these other guys. Diggs, in what limited film we had on him, in my estimation, excels like on the crossing routes and things of that nature. I think he can be like a possession slot receiver type. And the landing spot's fantastic. Nice young quarterback, wide receiver core that is questionable, iffy at best. Good offensive coordinator, got this great pedigree, five-star recruit, early breakout age, 10-inch hands. The list goes on and on and on. And I know that Drew knows, and I've spoke about it before. I play in return yard leagues, where you're getting 1 point for every 20 return yards. I could see them unleashing Diggs on in the return game, possibly pretty soon, because he did it well at Maryland. But there's that Cordarrelle Patterson guy there. I forgot about him. But hell, who knows what's going to happen with CPAT? I'm hoping for a resurgence. It could happen, right?
Or a trade somewhere else where he might get some better, just a change of scenery, maybe. I don't know.
Can we get points if he goes to the CFL? Can I still play him?
You can try. It'll be worth a shot, but I
love Diggs in Minnesota. In short, really good landing spot, in my estimation.
Yep. And another second-round wide receiver for us in terms of rookie picks that fell a good bit in the NFL draft. And by mean fell a good bit means I was kind of mentally preparing myself for him to go undrafted, was Trey McBride. This was the most shocking fall in the NFL draft to me, because this was a guy I was ready to see him go in the top 100 of the NFL draft, and falling the 7th round, I was just not ready for it. Between him and Ajayi, I couldn't, I wasn't prepared for it mentally. But McBride, to me, his landing spot in Tennessee. If you tell me in 2016 that DGB and Trey McBride are the 2 starting wide receivers in Tennessee, you won't get any disbelief from me. I think Kendall Wright is just a guy, and Justin Hunter is going to be just a guy working at Walmart.
That makes me so sad. Why do we got to talk about Cordero and Justin Hunter back to back here? But I agree with you there. In that, on the surface, the landing spot doesn't look real great, but it's not bad at all. I mean, young quarterback, playing opposite of DGB, who he himself may find himself out of the league or bust. Justin Hunter, who we've talked about, is just got bust written all over him. And then Kendall Wright, who is a nice little efficient slot receiver. So I could definitely see McBride, like you said, being the starter opposite of whomever in 2016. So great value for Tennessee, and what's going to be great value in rookie drafts for dynasty owners, because we're going to be getting him a heck of a lot later than we were pre-draft anyway.
Yeah, and I still don't even feel bad about the 2nd round pick I spent on him in the rookie draft I had before the NFL draft. I took him in a couple of startups I had before the NFL draft, and they don't feel like wasted picks to me, because I feel like he's one of those guys that down the road, doesn't matter where he got drafted in the NFL, he's going to outperform that draft stock. And another guy that I kind of touched on just a little bit earlier was another guy who fell was Jay Ajayi, he was my RB3. I love this guy's tape, and the only legitimate reason I could think he fell is that knee. And I think that knee is a bigger concern for teams than we had any indication of. I know, it was sounding like it was kind of a thing, but to fall as far as he did, I don't think we had any indication it was that bad. But to me, he's still a guy I'm targeting in the early 2nd, mid-2nd as my RB, probably 5. It'd be a toss-up between him and Abdullah for me right now, but I think Ajayi still gets is still going to get the nod in most places for me.
Yeah, this is a real thing. The fact that he fell that far and gets a little baby contract, and he was clearly ranked high by everybody, and then this knee stuff starts coming out. It's a real thing. It's a problem, and it's something that you have to take into account. Now, the risk is going to be baked into his price now, because his price has dropped considerably. I got him at 209 yesterday, and it's a 10-teamer, but it's a 10-team super flex, so we can extrapolate that number, and let's say I got him at like 205, something like that, which is still a very palatable price for a guy that talented. Going to Miami, playing behind a good back, but a good back that Miami just hasn't ever really fully committed to. They just will not feed Lamar Miller. They just don't. So I could see Ajayi as another guy like Diggs, like McBride, that's going to present nice value on draft day. So for me to get him at the end of the 2nd, I would have never even dreamt of that 3 weeks ago. I would have never even thought that was possible. So am I concerned? Yeah, you're damn right I'm concerned. But I'm not so concerned that I'm going to let this just awesome value that whopped me over the head in the rookie draft just slide right by. If I'm going to be able to get him with some of the risk taken out due to price, yeah, I'll be all over it.
Yeah. For me, the knee concern just tells me he might have a shorter career than originally believed. And if that's the case, that sucks a lot. But I think he's good enough to where it doesn't really matter. I think he's still going to be Studley regardless. And I think we can move on to our next guy, and that's another guy I kind of talked up a good bit, and that's Darren Waller, who, like I said, like the other guys, sneaky landing spot right there in Baltimore. Tyler and I have made no bones about it. We're not a big believer in the super forehead that Baltimore drafted in the first round. I think Waller's got some legit talent. All right, breathe there, Tyler. You be all right.
the 5 head of Brashad Perryman.
That's a lot more than a 5 head. We started. Even my wife made a comment on his forehead, like she remembered it. We were talking about it in the car, and she's like, "Brashad Perriman, wasn't he the guy with the giant forehead?" I'm like, "Yeah, that was him." So, but I like Waller a lot. I was a big fan of his coming out of Georgia Tech, and I think Flacco kind of has not had the greatest receivers to even establish himself as a guy capable of providing fantasy relevance for wide receivers. I think Torrey Smith, he got touted as this guy who, was this potential fantasy dynamo and never reached that potential. But maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. We just refused to believe that was his peak. And maybe Waller is going to help Flacco show what his Flacco's peak is.
Yeah, I mean, Torrey, you know what you're getting out of Torrey. He's a wide receiver too. He's done it every single year. He's a wide receiver too. Now, the way he gets to those wide receiver 2 numbers make you want to pull your hair out, because one week you get 1 catch for 16 yards, and the next week you get 3 for 90 and 2 touches, and it's all over the map. But back to Waller, this is a great landing spot for Waller, because all he's got to do is wait for Steve Smith to retire. He's got to beat out Marlon Brown, Michael Campanaro. There's not a lot going on at wide receiver in Baltimore. Waller is a big old kid, measured well. The metrics like him. There's a lot to like about Waller. Just another one of these super sleeper guys. We're talking this late in rookie drafts. When you're talking 4th round rookie draft picks, and shoot for the moon. The odds are you're going to end up cutting these guys. Okay, the odds are they're not going to make your roster for an entire year and stick there for an entire year. But a guy like this is exactly the kind of guy that I want to roll the dice on, especially when there's no cost, no real cost associated with getting them. So fantastic spot. Flacco's got the booming arm. It's been said before. Brashad Perryman, maybe he's the wide receiver 1. And even if he is, I don't think it really affects Waller one bit, one way or the other. It can only help Waller, if he's got another stud on the other side of him. So situation's great. All he's got to do is beat out a couple guys who are not so great and wait for Steve Smith to finally hang up his cleats. How old is Steve Smith, by the way? He's got to be 38, 39 years old.
Way too fucking old. I mean, I've hated him like my entire life. That's how old he is.
You wouldn't draft Steve Smith when he was a rookie, right? He's like, nah, Steve Smith came into the league at 33 years old.
See, I don't remember him coming in as a rookie. I only have memories of him as a Panther and him being a douchebag. So,
boo Steve Smith, right? That's the moral of this whole discussion.
That's right, and I'll throw in a boo Roddy White right on top of that, just to top it all off.
Don't do that. Roddy's cool. Roddy's my people.
Nah. Roddy ain't Rod. No. I'll draft Julio and Matt Ryan all day, but Roddy White won't touch my teams. I got him in one spot, and I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, try trading him. You can get a handful of farts for Roddy White right now. You'd probably be happy to get it.
You know what? And I wouldn't. I'd be mad if the Saints traded a handful of farts to get him.
Oh, he'd be a great fit with them this year.
But a little bit more on topic. Let's talk about Devontae Davis, who's a guy that we liked a good bit through the scouting process, and the landing spot. It's a great landing spot, and it's a crappy landing spot at the same time. If Aguilar hadn't gone there, I'd love it. I'd love him as the number 2 wide receiver there. But as number 3, number 4, number 5, depending on how Ertz and Huff slot in, we're hoping for a miracle for him to get playing time in Philadelphia. At this point, we're hoping for him to show enough that other teams are interested, and then he gets cut and picks up somewhere else. It's enough that I believe in the talent, and I'm going to hold him on my roster where I've got the depth to keep him, because I think this guy has a legit chance to succeed in the NFL if he gets the opportunity to.
Yeah, best case scenario here is like a Charles Johnson scenario where he flashes, gets cut, somebody else picks him up, and he can pop in somewhere. And I'm the same as you. In these leagues where we have super deep rosters, and most of our leagues are super deep rosters, because if they're not, I'm not in them anymore, because that's just boring to me. I like to have room to put guys to where they can develop. I'm still taking Davis. I mean, I don't want to say where I'm going to take him. We're probably looking at another late fourth rounders, something like Waller. Very similar, same kind of deal, just the situation's a little bit different, or a lot bit different. There's no way he's on the same level as Matthews and Aguilar, at least not in my estimation. So, yeah, I'll say, if I've got room to stash him, stash him away. See what happens.
Yeah, some of our IDP leagues, we got like 60 roster spots. I'll find space. I don't need a third cornerback if it comes to it. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I don't even want a second. I don't even want a first cornerback if it can be avoided. Just stream. Yeah, but I feel like just stream. Row down the stream of cornerbacks.
How'd that work out with you with Peanut Tillman, by the way?
Not well, but I got Fuller. Everywhere I had Peanut, except for one spot I had Fuller. And speaking of which, Peanut is still, I don't care how old he is, has a chance to finish as a legit CB1 next year. Not even a CB1, the CB1. If he gets the snaps, he's that good. So, yeah, that's fair. That was heartbreaking losing Peanut. I lose Peanut and Tyvon Branch like 5 seconds into the season, almost across the board in all of my leagues. It was pretty brutal. But getting Kyle Fuller to back up Peanut was pretty sweet.
Oh, and watching Peanut get injured, that killed me inside, because that was just brutal to watch, because you could see it in his eyes, like, there goes my season, and I've got almost no seasons left. That hurt to watch, almost as much as it hurt watching that Victor Cruz injury.
Oh, God.
I know.
I'm broken. I'm broken over Victor Cruz. I just please come back. Just be 80% of who he was. And he's still a damn good wide receiver. Still just an excellent player, but that quickness, man, that was his whole game, was that quickness. I'm afraid it's gone.
Yeah, probably. Well, let's move on to not necessarily a happier note, but a different note, in that Mike Davis went to the 49ers and effed up all my Carlos Hyde shares. Because I think Mike Davis is going to see enough third down work to at least F up the value for Carlos Hyde. At least he's going to take away some touches from Carlos Hyde, because Mike Davis is probably a legitimate starter in his own right. I don't think he's going to get enough snaps to be a starter, but he's going to get enough to throw off Carlos Hyde from being probably the level of our running back I expected him to be.
Yeah, that's fair. It wasn't the best landing spot. I still think Reggie Bush is going to get the majority of that kind of work next year. So Mike Davis, this is what I was saying to Drew. Mike Davis is going to be a nice little candidate when you're making a trade midseason and you look over at that guy's roster. You're like, hey, man, just throw in Mike Davis and we got a deal, because Mike Davis may not have even taken 50 snaps at that point. So just get him on your roster and see what you can get. He's liable to have a third down role at some point in the future. And in PPR, even if you got a guy that's just catching 3 or 4 balls a game, that's a starter. It's not a high-end starter by any stretch of the imagination, but hell, I'm the guy that started Roy Halou for the last 2 years in a lot of leagues. So Mike Davis is my kind of running back.
Well, and that'll wrap up our draft coverage, and that's of course our only preliminary. We've got months and months left to talk about this stuff because it's going to be all there is to talk about while we wait for all these training camps and whatnot to go through. But for now, let's move on to our submitted questions. We've got this week and last week's to catch up on, so we've got a decent bit to hit on. Our first one comes from Dude Where's My Car? It says, I have 4 picks in round 3 of my rookie draft and was curious as some of your favorite later round guys at wide receiver and running back. Guys who can pop and or guys who can play right away, regardless of the landing spot. So I'll let you start us off.
Well, we just spent about the last 20 minutes talking about a good chunk of those.
Yep.
Zach Zinner, that's another guy that landed in a pretty decent spot. I'm not so sure I'm going to be super crazy about taking him in the 3rd right now. I'd much rather, if your rookie draft's deeper into the summer where we've got a little bit more insight as to what's going on in camp, he could be a guy that definitely pops on the radar. Hell, I took him in the 3rd pre-draft, and I don't hate it. So, yeah, I mean, Davis, Diggs, McBride, Mike Davis, these are all going to be nice plays here. There are a few other guys that I don't like as much, Buck Allen, guys like that. I'm just totally avoiding.
Jeremy Langford.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to be avoiding Langford so much as you are. I still think Kadeem Carey is the guy to have there outside of Forte in Chicago. Langford's tape just
it's doo-doo.
Well, I wouldn't even say that. I think Langford would be a fantastic running back in the 90s where he's got a fullback in front of him and a tight end, and it's 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I think Langford would be legit. But in today's NFL where it's one back and spread the field and you got to hit the gap and go, I think he's going to struggle. But, I mean, like I said, the guys that we talked about here earlier, there's a reason why we're talking about them because those are the guys we like. Those are the guys we like at good value. So I'm sure Drew can come up with a couple more names than what I have.
Yeah, I like Clive Walford, another solid guy I'd be looking at there. Big fan of him. If either of the QBs fall to the 3rd, Mariota or Winston, those will be guys I'd definitely be hitting up. And I mean, those are pretty much my guys. I'd still be willing to take a shot on Chris Conley's upside, even though Kansas City. I mean, I'm going to take a shot on it just for the hope that, I don't know, Chase Daniel gets to start and maybe we get to see some fantasy production out of the wide receivers there. I don't know. But in the 3rd, it's definitely worth the risk for what his potential upside might be. But that's about all I can come up with off the top of my head. But that's about a round's worth of guys that you can target. So you've got some decent guys. We'll move on to our next question. Comes from username 02. It says, if you aren't in a Devy league, how far ahead should you realistically be looking at prospects? And to me, borderline, you should be looking a year ahead. Like right now, you should be at least starting the evaluation process, getting a good idea of who's in the 2016 class, and really getting a good feel of who would be potentially in your first round, who would be on your first round board, because that's going to tell you how strongly you should be focusing on acquiring future firsts. Like Tyler and I were just talking about before the show. I'm all about Tyler Boyd. I'm all about Ezekiel Elliott. I'm going to take as many shots as I can get on lottery tickets to get some early first next year. And there's a lot of very talented players in the 2016 draft. I'm also I think you should also kind of be aware of the 2017 draft at this point. Not so much that you're watching tape, but be aware of guys that are coming up. Be aware of the guys that Devy guys are pumping up. It's not going to hurt you to go, read some Devy articles and kind of be aware of what the future landscape looks like, because it's going to put you a couple steps ahead of your league mates.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it for me, I'm a football fan. I'm not just an NFL fan. I'm a college football fan. In fact, college football is and always will be my first love. So you just kind of know. I just kind of know who these guys are through osmosis more than anything. You watch them play, you hear the names, you see the names. If you're not a college football fan, go read Nick Whalen's Devy report. Go to Under the Helmet. Look at Chad Parsons' Devy metrics. I mean, there are a lot of guys out there that can just provide you with the information that you need. Like Drew said, this 16 class, I'm telling you, it's shaping up pretty nice. I can think of 3 guys off the top of my head right now that would be in my top 6 or 7 in the 2015 class. Like, I would take them right now versus some of the guys that are going in that range in this class. So the 16 class for me looks super sexy, at least at the top. And we don't even know who the Kevin White of next year is going to be yet. We don't know who's going to emerge from the pack. So I've always got an eye out towards the future. I won't necessarily say that I'm looking X number of years in advance, but I know who the good college football players are just because I'm watching college football. I'm keeping up with it. But like I said, if you don't, you ain't got to look hard to find the Devy resources. They're out there. There are a lot of guys that are deep into it and know way more than I will ever know. And their information is available easily.
Yeah, the resources have definitely become more available in recent years. I remember when I started Dynasty, you really had to kind of seek some of this stuff out. You had to really dig around for it. But now it just kind of falls into your lap on Twitter. The guys you follow for normal Dynasty information are, they're sharing the Devy information, even if they don't play in a ton of Devy. It's more information to further develop your process. So these guys are interested in it. Devy information is all around you like it's never been. It's the same thing as IDP. Devy is becoming more and more of the fantasy landscape. So even if you're not playing in it, you're going to kind of absorb more of this knowledge just because you're around it. But you have anything else you want to touch on that before we move on? All right. And we'll move on to our next question that comes from Adam. And I don't like this question. And I don't like Adam. This comes from Sticky Z. It says the Bengals drafted 2 tight ends in the draft. Does this say anything about their feelings towards the much hyped, maybe by me, Tyler Eifert? And he says not to read this, but I'm going to do it anyways because he doesn't own me and he doesn't tell me what to do. Some stats for our consideration. In 2 pro seasons, Eifert only has 42 catches, 482 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns, which is intentionally misleading because only all of those came in his rookie season except for 3 receptions and 33 yards. So that's a pretty respectable rookie season for a tight end, especially one that was buried behind Jermaine Gresham on a depth chart. I'm not terribly excited about any of the other pass catchers besides, that AJ Green feller in Cincinnati. Tyler Eifert was taken as a first-round pick. The tight ends that Cincinnati picked were not, skilled pass catchers. They needed to bring in tight end depth. Cincinnati had, a strong enough roster to where they could kind of build depth where they needed it. This doesn't say anything about Tyler Eifert for me.
Yeah, I don't think it speaks much to him. I mean, Gresham's gone, right? You're not going to carry less than 2 or 3 tight ends on your roster, so they just filled it through the draft. Yeah, I mean, we beat this horse to death about the tight end position. It's Gronk, it's Graham, it's everybody else. And you might as well throw Eifert in that pile as well. If you want to take Zach Ertz over Eifert, doesn't bother me a bit. You want to take Eifert over ASJ, I don't care. We're just looking for the next breakout. And Eifert has the pedigree. His first-round draft pick, big size, in the right kind of offense where he should see the targets.
Looks good in orange.
Well, when he's Drew's boyfriend, of course Drew's going to say he looks good in orange. Just say Tyler Eifert looks good in everything because he's my best friend. But
no, Nelson Aguilar is my best friend.
Nelson Aguilar. Yeah, I forgot. We got a lot of best friends, man. We could fill a bus.
I would totally drive that bus.
Totally. I mean, the captain of the hype train, or the conductor of the hype train. I guess trains don't have captains. But anyway, yeah. So, like I said, he's just in that mix right there of the second tier of tight ends.
All right. Now, speaking of that second tier of tight ends, I'm going to move on to our next question. It comes from Awesome Andy Man, and he wants us to rapid rank these tight ends as most likely to produce long term. And the tight ends he gives us are Kyle Rudolph, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Charles Clay, Jason Morrow, and Tyler Eifert. And one of these names is not like the others. One of these names just doesn't belong. And that's Charles Clay, because he's getting paid so much more than these other tight ends. Charles Clay is getting paid the third most amount of money that any tight end has ever gotten paid in the history of the NFL. And I'm going to put him immediately at the bottom of my list for who's going to produce long term. He is in a Rex Ryan, Greg Roman offense, just a haven for offensive production, especially at the tight end position. He wasn't that good beforehand, and I just don't like him. So there's that. After that, I'm going to put Kyle Rudolph, who I've never been that much of a fan of. He's kind of been a perpetual disappointment, and I don't see the upside that everybody else has seen. So sue me. After that, I'm going to the next three are grouped much tighter for me. Jason Morrow would be my third guy. He's gonna see a lot of targets, I hope. I don't know how it's going to all shake out with Decker and Marshall and Devin Smith. I'm not even going to try and wager a guess, but I'm willing to bet it's going to be a lot better with Chan Gailey's offense than it was going to be with Rex Ryan. And it's still going to depend on how QB shakes out in New York, so it's got to end up better. The QB has to improve there, so something's going to happen. My number 2 is going to be Tyler Eifert, because he looks so good in orange, and I love me some Tyler Eifert. And number 1 is ASJ. I'm a big fan of ASJ's game. I think that he's going to help Winston develop quite early. He's going to be probably one of his favorite targets right there with Mike Evans, because who knows how long Vincent Jackson's going to last in Tampa Bay. But I think ASJ just has the highest upside out of him in terms of what his abilities are and what he offers as a tight end. So I'll let you kind of hit on where the difference is, or you could just completely parrot what I said. And
yeah. Clay and Rudolph are definitely at the bottom of the list. And there was a point in time where I love me some Kyle Rudolph, and I'm still barely hanging on to that last little sliver of hope. The dude just can't stay healthy. I know we hate to throw around the injury-prone tag. Oh, my God, if there was ever a guy that's injury-prone, it's Kyle Rudolph. I have an unhealthy obsession with Jason Morrow. I admit it. I've admitted it before. I do think this is the guy who could way, way outproduce his ADP over the course of his career versus what you're able to get him for right now. So I'm hesitant to even rank the other three. I'm going to rank them all as the exact same player, because that's effectively, in the tight end landscape, kind of what they are.
Oh, how's it feel to have that fence just right there in the middle of your ass?
Yeah, you see, no conviction from me on this one. I don't have any. I mean, at what point am I going to really go crazy over getting any of them? I mean, feet to the fire, I'd take ASJ first. And a lot of that is just because, all right, you like him better. I respect your opinion. Don't ever ask for a compliment from me again. I respect your opinion. The UTH guys love ASJ. The consensus likes ASJ better. So in this, at some level, I'm just going to go with the consensus as my tiebreaker. So there we go.
If it makes you feel any better, I've drafted the crap out of Jason Morrow this year, because mostly based on your opinion of him, and I've had to almost restrain myself in case it does go wrong, so I'm not stuck with all the busted shares of him. I don't need another Michael Floyd situation on my hands. But I think that wraps that up. Let's move on to our question from Zadlu, which that's pretty fun to say. I like that. I know people always do best player available for rookies, but if I'm sitting at 104 and I really don't need Kevin White, he has Watkins, Demaryius Thomas, Julio, Martavis, Torrey, and Deshaun Jackson. Should I still get him? Or do I go for the best running back available? Gurley and Gordon are going 102 and 101 for sure in this league. First of all, I'm just going to throw this out there. If you have Watkins, Demaryius Thomas, Julio, Bryant, Torrey, and Deshaun Jackson, there's nothing saying you don't need Kevin White. Kevin White could easily slot in as next to Julio as your second best wide receiver within the next 2 years, because Demaryius Thomas, he's good for now, but he's 28. It's not going to last forever. Kevin White's going to help you stock those shelves for when Demaryius Thomas starts getting up there in age and his production starts declining. Deshaun Jackson's older. Torrey Smith, not that good. Martavis Bryant is not a guarantee to continue improving his production. Martavis Bryant could cap out as a big play wide receiver, like kind of in
Torrey Smith.
Not even Torrey Smith level. He could have, a couple of good touchdown games a year and cap out at 800 yards a season. So that wouldn't immediately kind of cut me out of drafting Kevin White. With that being said, if I'm sitting at 104, I'm going to try my damnedest to bump myself up to 103 and see if I can't lock down Cooper. If I know he's going to be sitting there at 103, I'm gonna do my damnedest to pick up Cooper. I love Kevin White, but with that roster, Cooper shores that up real quick.
Okay. In Dynasty, there is no such thing as too many wide receivers. That does not exist. It's not a problem to have too many wide receivers. I can't even stress enough how important it is to have as big and badass of a wide receiver core as you possibly can. They're the most valuable on the trade market. They have the longest career span. They're going to score more consistently in PPR over a much longer period of time than any other position. If I'm at 104 and Kevin White is there and I'm not looking to trade or move up or move back or anything like that, I'm going to do backflips all the way to my computer and click select on Kevin White. In that wide receiver core, it's a good wide receiver core, but like Drew said, there's nothing there that's saying it's finished or it's polished and it's ready to go, because there's some question marks in there. But like I said, I just can't even stress enough. BPA and rookie drafts, always BPA. And team need can be a tiebreaker, and that's not a problem. If you've got a tie on a guy, yeah, go with team need. Like for me, if I'm looking at Gurley and Coop, and I am just absolutely loaded 9 deep at wide receiver, I'll go Gurley, and vice versa. Just because those two are absolutely, just almost rock solid tied. But in a situation like that, where that tier drops off hard after Kevin White, in my opinion, to my next guy, which is going to be Aguilar, and then I guess we may be talking about TJ Yeldon right there as well, possibly Devontae Parker, even though it pains me to say that. That's where he has to be. So yeah, just keep stacking up wideouts. Hell, I did a startup earlier this year where I spent my first 9 picks on wide receiver. Sure, the team's not going anywhere this year. I'm not going to win any championships this year, or probably even in 2016. But I'm going to have some serious trade bait and some serious sexiness. So just get your wide out there and be glad to have him.
That's right. And you talk about that tiebreaker. You say you're sad with having Parker right there, but I would have Parker right next to Yeldon. Parker and Yeldon, it would be tiebreaker for team need right there for me.
I can agree with that 100% there, but I'm really coming around on Yeldon. Really warming up to Yeldon. That landing spot is so juicy. And I even forced myself to watch some more tape, and I still have some concerns, mainly about the running style. But, man, he's the easy RB3 in this class for me right now, and the gap is pretty freaking wide.
Oh, yeah. My number 4 at this point is David Johnson, and, I'm looking at Yeldon at 106. I'm not looking at David Johnson until the mid-second, probably 14th overall, something like that. And Before it was I had a Jai in there, and everything was a lot cloudier. It's clear as day for me now. Yeldon. And we're going to move on to our next question. It's going to come from a good old friend of the podcast. Coming from Dave, MTux96. Says, now that the draft is over, rookie drafts are starting to heat up. I have lots of questions about IDP rookies. And at what point do you begin to take a rookie IDP? And I'll let you open us up because you're our resident IDP expert.
All right, so this is tough. Oh, Dante Fowler for me would have been a. All right, so we're in a 14-team league. I'm all prepped and ready to take Dante Fowler at 112. I'm not as high as on Randy Gregory at that point. So I'm probably going to begin targeting IDP like I normally would. Defensive ends in the mid-second. That's about where I'd be looking at Gregory. Linebackers in the late second to third. Even though Eric Kendricks is a boss. Paul Dawson is a boss. Stephon Anthony is going to be great. But the position's just too damn deep to go spending that high rookie draft capital on linebackers. So for me, if I can get Randy Gregory in the mid to late second, I'll do it. I'll still take a run at Dante Fowler in the third. And I might get booed out of the stadium for saying that. But I'll do it. And I'll put him on my IR, and then I will unleash hell in 2016 when he comes back from that injury.
Yeah, and I guess I'm higher on Fowler than you are, and I'm not really all that surprised by it. I've been looking at Fowler maybe as early as 110, depending on the league. In Superflex, I'd be right there with you probably about 112, but probably about 110 is where I'd be comfortable with Fowler. With Gregory being the top guy now, I'd probably be looking at him probably about right where you are, maybe a little bit earlier. And I don't care. I'm not taking a chance on missing on Fowler. If I have to take him in the late second, I'm doing it. I'm not missing out on Fowler because he's going to come back and he's going to be studly. But like you said, linebackers in the mid-second this year because I'm not terribly impressed with any of them. But it changes from year to year. CJ Mosley last year, take him in the first. No question. Lock him down. This guy's top 4 linebacker in the NFL or in IDP right now. So I just don't care. Get him. And Shazier was right behind him. So it really depends on the draft class. For this one specifically, I'm just going to wait till Paul Dawson's on the board because I really don't care about Anthony or Kendricks. Neither of them do enough for me to pass up on a skill position player that's going to be available where they're going to go.
Thing about those two linebackers is you'll be able to pop them in as a starter. Pow, day one. And yeah, we do talk about put talent over need. But if you've got a competitor, like a team that's competing, I could see grabbing a starter right there because that's what they're going to be. They're going to be starters. I could even see, this is going to sound nuts, but I could even see grabbing Landon Collins somewhere in there. Right around that tier of linebackers. I know a lot of guys say defensive back's replaceable, and it is. But if you can draft Landon Collins as a rookie and put him in your starting lineup for the next 10 years, that's pretty salty, right?
Yep. If you want to take Landon Collins over Anthony, I won't bat an eyelash at that. Landon Collins is going to put up legit LB2 numbers pretty much from the get-go. I'm all about Landon Collins, especially with the situation on top of how good he is just as a safety. Yeah, I'm all about that.
Yeah, decent to middling linebackers in front of him. Look what Antrell Roll did when they put him in the box in 2013. Antrell Roll was an animal, an IDP animal in 2013 when he was playing strong safety. And Antrell Roll's a hell of a player. There's nothing to say that Landon Collins won't be either. So I'm all about me some Landon Collins, man. We got a new man crush, I think.
I feel like we just need to make a book so we can keep track of all of them.
Man, I think I ranked him DB7, and I am perfectly comfortable with that. Where opportunity meets talent, meets scheme, Man,
meets
it's a
youth.
perfect storm. Yeah, it's a perfect storm.
Yep. And that's going to wrap up our questions for this week. I don't have a rant for this week. I've been rookie drafting. I've been a startup draft. I guess the closest thing I have to a rant is getting sniped over again by all these damn people in my leagues because I'm playing with these friggin' sharks. Tyler over here friggin' putting together an all-pro of our league mates into one super IDP league. And it's just finding any value is ridiculous. I've ended up with Robert Quinn and our Chandler Jones and JPP in a defensive end premium already in like the 8th round, just because that's where the value's been left at. It's an IDP. I'm like, I'm gonna have to win somehow, and I guess I'm gonna do it with my IDP roster because I'm not getting any talent left at wide receiver or running back.
Yeah, that draft. And I was telling Tim, I said, it's a fire-breathing dragon. You know, like instead of taking candy from a baby, you're taking a candy from a fire-breathing dragon who really likes candy and gets pissed when you take his candy. That draft is, and it's just now in its infancy stages right now. What are we in the 8th round, 9th round? And we're going 62 deep, and I'm getting popped at every available turn.
Oh yeah, the pain trains are coming.
I wanted to trade up for Alec Ogletree so bad this morning, and I didn't. And then he immediately goes off the board, and then I vomit. And, rinse and repeat and just do that over and over again. But it's fun, but I think I may have stacked that league a little bit deep. So the guys in Theory of Revolution, fuck all of you. You're making this draft very difficult for everyone. I love you, but fuck you.
Yeah, y'all can eat shit and die, seriously. But no, I love you guys, and the chat in there is great. For those of you guys who are kind of new to Dynasty, this is what I love Dynasty for. Tyler and I met up in one Dynasty league, and now I'm probably in half of my leagues with this guy. Find these guys that you get along well with, and join another league with them. Start forming together your better league mates. Make your leagues competitive. Make your leagues hard to win, because winning a BS league with a stacked roster, sure, it's great. I won some money, huzzah! But at the end of the day, it is so much more fun to barely scratch into the playoffs in this super competitive league where it actually means something than it does to make it into the finals in a league that you knew you were going to make it into the playoffs before the season started.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, we love playing this game, and we love it. It's the battle of wits. It's the competition. It's the Sunday morning jitters and then the Monday night sweat. And I love all that stuff. But what I really love is the camaraderie and the friendships that I've made and all of that. I've made some fantastic friends, buddies. These are more than just acquaintances. You guys are my friends. And that, for me, is what it's all about. Yeah, I want to win. Don't get me wrong. I want to win. Oh, yeah. I want to win so bad it hurts.
Oh, yeah. But I stomped you out in 806, and I haven't stopped bragging about it since.
You haven't, but man, you got a problem next year. Have you looked at my lineup? It is nasty.
I'm not worried about it.
You should be. I mean, super flex with A-Rod and Luck and Evans and Dez, and I'm drooling over here. It's so good.
Don't care.
It's so good.
Not scared.
A full-on nuclear arsenal.
Nuclear, huh?
Nuclear arsenal. I love it. Best nickname in the game. If anybody's got a better nickname than Nuke, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, that's good stuff. But I think everybody's tired of hearing about our leagues, and I think we're about to wrap it up. You got any last parting shots for us this week?
No, not really, man. Just looking forward to keeping these drafts going. I'm having a blast. I've got building 2 teams right now. One of them in the league that we spoke about, a little rough. My other team is sexified. I love that other team. So I'm just enjoying the hell out of the whole week. This is as good as it gets for Dynasty right now, is having a bunch of drafts going on.
Absolutely. I probably, as a pure Dynasty owner, I probably love this time of year more than actually in season. But once I'm a football fan, you gotta take in season over it. But you can't beat the feeling of just draft after draft after draft. It's fantastic. But we've gotten some great suggestions for the show already, for new segments. I would love to hear some more ideas from you guys. Any feedback at all would just be fantastic, honestly. But thanks for listening, guys. This has been the Dynasty Playbook, Dynasty FF's dedicated podcast. I've been your host, Drew. You can find me on Reddit at EAF Marine and on Twitter at DrewDotson NFL. With me has been my co-host, Tyler. You can find him on Reddit at Barles and on Twitter at HBomb9508. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week.